What if the ghost haunting your house knew how to use your phone? Forget old tales of rattling chains and creaky doors. Today, we're diving into a case so modern and terrifying, it'll make you look twice at every device in your home. This is the story of the South Shields poltergeist, a haunting that terrorized a young family in the UK in 2006. This was on just a few bumps in the night. This was an intelligent, aggressive, and technologically savvy entity. The story begins with a young couple, Mark and Marianne, and their 3-year-old son, who moved into what they thought was a normal home in South Tyneside. It didn't take long for things to get weird. At first, it was small stuff, toys moving on their own, objects being misplaced. But the activity quickly escalated. This wasn't a shy spirit. It was violent and seemed to enjoy tormenting them. Imagine coming home to find your dining chairs stacked in a bizarre, gravity-defying tower, reaching almost to the ceiling, or walking into the kitchen to find knives that were safely in a drawer, now scattered across the floor, some even sticking point down into the linoleum. This entity was making its presence known, and it was getting bolder by the day. The family started hearing disembodied whispers and growls echoing through the hallways. They would feel sudden, intense drops in temperature, a classic sign of paranormal activity. But this felt different. It felt personal. The poltergeist seemed to focus its physical aggression on Mark. He would wake up with deep, painful scratches on his back, appearing in sets of 3, as if clawed by an unseen animal. These weren't just light surface marks. They were raw, bleeding wounds that appeared out of nowhere while he slept. The couple tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe he was scratching himself in his sleep, but the location and severity of the wounds made that impossible. The entity was physically assaulting him, leaving its mark to prove its power. But the most iconic and bone-chilling incident involved their son's favorite toy. It was a large, plush rabbit, the kind of cuddly friend every kid has. One evening, Marianne was heading upstairs when she froze in terror. At the top of the landing, sitting upright in a small chair, was the stuffed rabbit. And clutched firmly in its fuzzy paws was a sharp box cutter, its blade gleaming in the dim light. The implication was horrifying. The entity had taken an object of childhood innocence and turned it into a symbol of pure menace, a silent, terrifying threat. This wasn't just moving objects. This was psychological warfare. The message was clear. Nothing is safe, not even your child's toys. This is where the story takes a truly 21st century turn. This entity wasn't just old school, it understood technology. Mark and Marianne started receiving threatening text messages on their mobile phones. The messages were vile, containing specific threats against them and their son. The most disturbing part, the texts came from their own numbers, or from numbers that didn't exist. They would receive a message from Mark's phone while it was sitting right in front of him, untouched. Other times, the sender ID would be a jumble of random digits, untraceable and impossible. The messages would say things like, "I'm going to hurt you," or make specific threats about what it would do to their little boy. It was a constant barrage of digital terror. They couldn't escape it. Even turning off their phones didn't help. The entity seemed to have a direct line into their lives, using the very technology meant to connect them, to isolate and terrify them. Its technological prowess didn't stop with phones. The baby monitor, a device meant to provide peace of mind, became another tool for terror. Instead of hearing their son sleeping peacefully, they would hear sinister whispers and guttural growls coming through the speaker. The voice would threaten the toddler directly, whispering his name and detailing horrible things it wanted to do to him. They were forced to listen, helpless, as this unseen force tormented their child from another room. The house became a prison. The family was under constant siege, both physically and psychologically. The poltergeist's activity was relentless. Doors would slam shut with incredible force, lights would flicker on and off, and a constant feeling of being watched permeated every corner of the home. They tried everything. They brought in paranormal investigators, mediums, and priests. One investigation team, from a group called the Northern Ghost Investigation Society, captured some of the most compelling evidence. During their time in the house, they documented objects moving on their own, captured electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs of the growling voice, and witnessed the chair stacking firsthand. They confirmed that the family was not fabricating the events. They were living in a state of constant fear. The investigators themselves felt the oppressive atmosphere and experienced the poltergeist's tricks. They noted that the entity seemed to be intelligent and reactive, almost like it was playing a game with them, enjoying the fear it was causing. One of the investigators, Mike Hallowell, co-authored a book about the case titled The South Shields Poltergeist, One Family's Fight Against an Invisible Intruder. He described it as one of the most violent and intelligent hauntings he had ever encountered. The entity's ability to manipulate technology was particularly unnerving, suggesting a level of awareness far beyond typical ghost stories. So what was this thing? A poltergeist, which translates from German as noisy ghost, is typically associated with kinetic energy, often believed to be subconsciously generated by a living person, usually a teenager going through puberty. But the South Shields case doesn't fit this mold. The activity was too intelligent, too malicious, and too targeted. Many paranormal experts who studied the case believe this wasn't a poltergeist at all, but something much older and darker, a demonic entity. Demonic theories point to the intelligence, the religious-like iconography of the scratches and threes, and the pure malevolence of the spirit. It wasn't just making noise. It was actively trying to destroy a family. It targeted their weaknesses, preyed on their love for their son, and used their own technology against them. Its goal seemed to be to break them down, to drive them to despair. Eventually, the family couldn't take it anymore. They had been documenting the events, taking photos and videos of the strange occurrences, but living through it was a nightmare. After months of relentless torment, they did the only thing they could. They fled. They abandoned the house and almost all of their possessions, escaping with little more than the clothes on their backs. They moved away, seeking anonymity and peace, and have understandably remained out of the public eye ever since. The house in South Shields has since had other tenants, but there have been no public reports of similar activity. It's as if the entity was specifically attached to Mark, Marianne, and their son. Or perhaps it simply went dormant, waiting. The case remains one of the most compelling and frightening examples of a modern haunting on record. It blurs the line between the paranormal and the technological, leaving us with a chilling question. In a world filled with smart devices and constant connectivity, what new ways will the supernatural find to reach out and terrorize us? The South Shields poltergeist is a stark reminder that some things can't be explained by science or logic. It forces us to consider that there might be forces at play that are not only real, but are also adapting to the world we've rebuilt. The story of the toy rabbit with the box cutter, the phantom text messages, and the whispered threats through a baby monitor will forever be etched in the annals of paranormal history. It's a true-life horror story that proves that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones you can't see, but who know exactly how to find you. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into one of the UK's most terrifying hauntings. What do you think was tormenting this family? A poltergeist, a demon, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story and want more explorations into the unexplained, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Stay safe, and maybe keep an eye on your phone. You never know who or what might be trying to text you.